You're not stuck. You're not uninspired. You're just not in your body. The artist in you never disappeared. You've just been trying to create from a place of disconnection. From your mind, from performance, from expectations, from everything that the world says you ought to be. Everything but yourself. But true creativity, it lives below the neck. It comes online when we de-thaw from the neck down, feel our spine, our breath, and our gut. The artist lives in the body, and if you can't feel yourself, you can't feel your art either. So let's get the artist back in the body so that you can create and have the impact that you know you came here to have, and to embody the fullness of what it's like to express the depths of who you are. Not for the algorithm, not for hustle culture, but just for yourself. In and through the body, baby. So by the end of this video, you will be resourced to stay connected to yourself as you express, as you give your creative gifts, because that is the only path to success. We're going to explore the pain of disconnection, where the artist lives in you, and how you lost this connection and how to reclaim it by coming home to your body. So if you're new here, my name's Kev. I'm an award-winning furniture designer, and I help ambitious creatives get into their bodies. So disembodiment shows up as a creative block. This is why most multi-passionate creatives think they're lazy or stuck, because they're trying to solve the creative dilemma, the creative stuckness from their mind, not their body. The hustle culture myth sells us this kind of story that the more we perform, the more we create, the more that we do, the more rewards we will be given at the end of the road. But there's no end to the road, and the rewards are illusions. The only reward comes from you having the courage to stay in your body. Because when you stay in your body, you stay connected to your aliveness. You have the sensitivity to feel what wants to move through you. You take responsibility for it, you feel your spine, and you create, right? But when you do not have that connection, it's painful. You know that you are half living your dreams. You know that there's more available to you, but maybe you can't quite put your finger on it, right? It's like trying to paint with numb hands. Something is missing there. You know it, but you don't know what's wrong, because until you feel aliveness, you didn't know that you were numb in the first place. Sure, you can make good art, but maybe you can't make great art. You can make a good business, but you can't make a great business. A good relationship, not a great one. You get the example. So there's a lot of pain there when we feel separate from our dreams and not knowing why. And how we reconnect to what it means to be alive is discovering where the artist lives inside of us. So think of your body as an instrument. It's not just the vehicle that you drive that gets you where you need to go. Yes, it's a great meat suit, but it's a beautiful fucking instrument, you know? Emotion, sensation, and movement, like these are the raw materials of creativity. These are the mediums and practices available to you in any moment. They're the vessels that we use to get not only in our body and aware of our body, but to get into our regulated states. And when we are regulated, we gain access to hearing that deeper knowing. The idea behind the idea, right? The why inside of our work. You know, when you write and you feel, and it feels like a pulse, right? When you speak and your voice just kind of vibrates with this truth that kind of shocks you, that's when you are in your artist body. That's when you are in that deep, regulated, ventral vagal tone, in your body where you are safe, connected, and powerful. From that place, you don't need to find inspiration, There's no such thing. The more that you just learn to feel, the more the inspiration naturally comes. So the artist lives in every part of your body that you are probably avoiding feeling. That pain in your hip, that tension in your gut, that stiffness in your shoulders. Wherever you are currently holding back in your body is the part of you that the creative, the artist is trying to move through, right? The more that you can amplify your attunement and sensitivity to your body and the subtle sensations and the emotions, the more you're going to connect to the artist. That artist within you can create a hell of a lot better than your mind ever can, but it also needs the help of your mind. So we need to learn how to cultivate both. But in learning to cultivate both, we have to really understand how we lost connection in the first place. How we learn to be so in our minds and not in our bodies. I know for me, it was so much praise for my performance rather than my presence. The better I did, it didn't matter how I was doing it, the more I got a reward. So I learned that was better than being present, And then the internalized kind of unhealthy shadow of capitalism. I'm a firm proponent of capitalism. I think it's a beautiful system. But the shadow of tying your worth to the output, right? That's slippery. So we lose connection to ourselves trying to get something, right? Instead of learning to give value, share it freely from our sense of connection, and be justly rewarded for that, right? And then not to mention all the different traumas and stresses that we've experienced in our life that have just caused us to literally just leave our body, nobody's home type of thing. And then the blatant examples now of technology, social media, and comparing yourself to everything out there, which is pulling your attention and awareness out of your body into some etheric fantasy land that's not real and leading you to believe that there's something wrong with you. Don't get me started. So the truth is, let's call it the somatic truth, right? You began to abandon yourself to be successful, and the artist paid the price for that. Doubly so, the paradox is you might get successful, but if you're not home, who's there to appreciate it, right? So it's time to come home to the body, baby. So there's a multitude of practices that you can resource yourself with that will get you into your body. Think of these as micro rituals, breathing before you create. A ritual I love before I make a video like this, or before I write especially, is just closing down my eyes, getting into a strong posture, and really connecting to my breath and really feeling where I'm breathing into. Am I breathing into my low belly, my gut, my core, my root, all of that, right? That's where I'm gonna create some connection and intimacy with my power, my aliveness, so that I can create with that, Scanning your body before big decisions, whoa, I'm feeling some strong tension in my gut right now. I'll get back to you tomorrow, whatever it is, Think of your creativity and your creative expression as a devotion, not some production, You can have a devotion every day and produce, but when you take the devotion out of it and you're just producing, you're a machine, not a human, and your work is going to suffer. So when you can appreciate the subtle qualities that make you feel like you are in devotion to yourself, create more space for them, that's when creativity is going to become more alive and more pleasurable, right? If you start your day with a morning practice and breath work and stretching and yoga and surfing and whatever movement, this is just me speaking for me, that makes me feel like I am preparing my body to create, that's going to impact your work, right? It's also helping me build the nervous system safety, so my creative persona, rather, my genius, my openness to the sort of divine downloads, I'm creating more space for that to stay and a wider surface area for it to land. Because the deeper and wider I can expand my nervous system capacity, the more space I'm able to hold for creativity. Big ideas, small ideas, ideas with a lot of responsibility, ideas with a lot of potential impact, edgy ideas that are just kind of scary to share. I'm widened and deepened enough to have the fortified presence to hold it, to make it happen, right? Think of a tree. It can only grow up and out as deep and wide as it goes, right? And so lastly, like how can I feel into this idea first before I try to mentally shape all the steps out, right? You know, start creating from, you know, your depth, your gut, your pelvis, your heart, before your mind, right? We need it all, but it needs to all be flowing. You know, we can't just create from our head in the same time that we can't always create from our gut. Sometimes we need both. We need to add logic, right? Masculine, feminine. So let's bring the cows home. What if you never lost your art? You just lost access to the part of you where the artist lived, where the art was made real, you know? So the most radical thing you can do in this culture is to feel again, to have the courage to be in your body. So learning to slow down, to come home, to be sensitive to your own capacity to feel is going to connect you to your artist again. And that's going to impact your work, your life, your relationships with such tremendous clarity. You won't even believe it. But it's joking, not joking. Like, it is so profound what becomes available when we drop into our body again after being numb from the neck down. So if you want help with that process of de-thawing and being able to have experiments that you can run day in and day out to boost your connection with yourself and your creativity, check out the Embodied Creator Toolkit. The link's in the description below. Sign up for the free newsletter and subscribe to this channel because I appreciate y'all so much. See you in the next one. Ciao!